Hello and welcome to Rainy Tuesdays, a podcast by friends for friends, as coined by Adam here. Today we're here with Margot and Adam, as always.
As
How's
per
your guys'
usual.
week been?
Not too bad. I had a midterm early, but after that, relatively homework free. So I took some downtime and watched some Marvel movies.
Oh, what movies did you watch?
Watch Captain America: Winter Soldier and Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Very nice.
High quality films. Marvel can't do wrong, in my opinion. Even the ones that aren't as good are still good movies.
Fair. How was your week, Ryan?
Pretty good, honestly. Very long, but pretty good. Going through midterms still, but we're surviving.
It's fair, man. It's been a tough week to be a woman. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's been interesting. Not fun. Kind of tough. I keep making this joke that is 100% not a joke and just sad. Of that, like, it's Women's Month, and it's been a really, really hard month to be a woman. Yeah, so a little tidbit of a content warning I think is needed for this episode. It's gonna be a little bit more serious. We're gonna try to keep it somewhat lighthearted, but also just like it's a serious topic. We're probably gonna mention sexual assault and violence against women and stuff like that. Yeah. So like in the past month, right? A lot of things have happened. There has been like there was a shooter that was arrested outside of Kamala Harris's house. As he wasn't a shooter. I don't think he actually shot anything. He was just a man that had a gun and every intention to shoot. Which
like that fits the definition.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing this week is with a lot of these events, they're like, well, the shooter didn't say so. And it's like, why are you taking his word for it? I don't think... Yeah.
Yeah. That relates to the tragic killing of 8 people last week, 6 of which were Asian women, which is a whole other nuanced conversation in of itself. There was, at least this isn't killing, but it's still sad. There was the women's training room thing that came out for women's basketball. Very upsetting.
Incredibly.
But on the bright side,
it's upsetting too. That's true. I was gonna say, if they're setting the training room thing, the event is upsetting in itself, but I think it's more upsetting the amount of people I've seen defending the men's training room and like why the disparity exists and throwing out all these things like that just aren't super valid, especially when you consider like the extreme disparity of the women's training room was really like, oh, what thing can we throw away?
Right.
And that's what y'all get.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I understand that like, women's basketball or just women's sports in general just isn't as popular as men's sports. But, like, that's not a reason to treat them differently. Yeah.
And if you think about it, maybe that's the reason it's not as popular is because you're not giving them the same opportunities or the same airtime. Or
I was thinking about, because that's the argument people make all the time, is that the men's sports make more money, so they'll have more facilities. And that might be true a little bit, but it doesn't justify giving them no facilities. But then you also have to look at, like, well, do they make more money because they're advertised more? And that's probably true. I mean, there's definitely like society stuff of we prefer to watch, I don't know why, but there's like a preference towards men's sports, but that's probably advertising based. And if you just push more money towards promoting the women's, I'm sure it would be more popular.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, I've like seen maybe 50 advertisements for men's basketball compared to maybe 1 for women's.
Yeah, I did not even realize the women's tournament was happening. I knew it existed, but I didn't realize it was the same time.
Yeah.
Because of ads. I've seen tons of ads for the men's tournaments and none for women's.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that there's also like, I'd have to do more research into finding out which channels, but I think that the channels that offer men's sports are typically ones that are in more packages in cable. I, again, have to check that. Don't like quote me, but I'm pretty sure that that is a thing. But yeah, so that's a thing. And then this one is wholly bad. Like it's not good in any way, but some products of it were good, which we'll get into. So at the beginning of the month, um, a woman named Sarah Everend uh, went missing and was later found killed in London. Um, I guess they found remains. I think they've since like confirmed that it was her. Um, and uh, Met police officer was like found guilty, and he was like arrested for kidnapping and murdering her in like the middle of the day, which was something we'll get into later. And like two things came from this, right? I'll start off with the bad so that we can then go into a positive note. But they decided that they were going to have undercover police officers at like nightclubs and stuff, which completely ignores the fact that a police officer is the one who killed her. And that now they can't get a badge number or anything.
Yeah.
So
just make the problem worse.
Yeah, that was a really inappropriate response on the Met Police behalf. But something that was nice is a guy who lived in the area started this like Twitter thread. And he was like, I live in this area. I like didn't even know that something like this could happen here. What can men do to like help women feel safe, basically? And it went into this like whole big Twitter thread, and it was very appreciated. So that's something that we'll talk about. I didn't know if you guys wanted to like go into any of the other stuff first, though.
I was talking about this before the podcast, but I think it's one of those things that not that like I didn't think this was possible. It's just, or not that I even like know what was going on. I knew a lot like this stuff happens, but like I just didn't think it was as big of a problem, or that's still like something we have to deal with, which is disappointing but also important to realize.
Yeah, it's definitely upsetting when you feel like, based on like the people you interact with, that society is making these strides and we're being progressive and getting past these things, and then something happens and it's like, oh no, we're not at all. All these same things are still just as ingrained and still happening everywhere, even if the few people that you see are better.
Yeah. But
That's
also
big.
I think like it's important to learn from it. Maybe there's like some things where it's like, oh, like maybe I could do this differently, or like we're going to talk about like how to make women feel more comfortable in like some situations.
It's important too to like highlight it and not sweep it under the rug. Like I think that's a pitfall of being more progressive and thinking you're better than everything else, is possibly ignoring it when it happens. So it is important to be like, no, this is still very much a real problem that we haven't really made significant strides in, and you can't just dispose of it. It's still there.
Yeah.
And I do just have to make like a side note that this is something I'm very grateful for you two about, because you're like both guys, and this is not only like a testament to the people who raised you, but like a testament to your own individual personalities, of like the fact that you guys are willing to have these conversations and are like open to caring about others. It's very nice. We appreciate it.
The bar is definitely on the floor, but I'm glad we beat it.
You jumped over it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think that's the point that's like the most disappointing, is like it doesn't like take a lot to just treat people fine. Like you don't have to do anything to treat people normally.
Yeah, it takes more effort to treat people badly.
Yeah. Why are you doing that? Be more lazy.
Okay, so let's get into this. So I posted on my personal Instagram, my Snapchat, and then Rainy Tuesday's Instagram, which we have. I posted like a question being this guy's like Twitter thread being like, what can not only men but then also other women do to help women feel safe and supported? Because there's obviously like lots that men can do, but I do also think that it's important to realize that as women we can like help each other in certain situations. So that's nice. So I thought we could just like go through some of these. I got a lot of responses, and thank you to seriously everyone who responded. I don't know if they all listened to the podcast or if they were just responding, but thank you so much. I'm really sorry if I can't get to all of them because I figured we'd probably like talk about each one. So I'm just gonna kind of pick and choose and maybe lump some together. But I'm sorry if I can't get to every single one. Anywho, so when you're walking behind a woman on like the street, especially at night, but also just like anytime ever, making sure not to walk too close to them and like cross the street if possible. Thoughts?
Okay. I can understand that. Like, I think at nighttime, like I've even experienced this as a man, like just random people at nighttime seem a little bit like more ominous.
Yeah.
Even though like you could be in a safe space, and I think like just adding that distance, like even just walking slower or like trailing the person a bit, like not being like up right behind, just like leaving distance.
Absolutely.
I think helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely something I'm like super paranoid about of feeling creepy. So I don't really stay out late, so this doesn't happen to me much. But there are like definitely times where I'm like, I have to make sure I'm not being creepy at all. And one in particular that came to mind, and to maybe make this funny, is when you're walking like up a stairwell and there's a woman in front of you, and then you're like lower it and you're like, well, I gotta look literally anywhere else. So there's a funny TikTok about it of like, oh, this rail is looking like it's really made of metal, and I never realized my shoes were so shoey before, but yes, they are. Because there's like a weird like paranoid of like, I need to make sure that I'm not being creepy in any way, so let me look anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's the same for like walking behind. It's the same for like walking behind a woman like later at night. And you're like, well, I need to make sure I'm not threatening because this is a problem.
Yeah, and like other things are like, I know that like the crossing the street thing is like extreme, and like I wouldn't like expect someone who like, especially if they like needed to be on the side of the street, like they don't need to cross the street fully. If they do it 100%, like I'm feeling better because they're like not, right behind me. I get why people would ask for that, but I think another like equally as helpful thing is if you just make a lot of noise. Because that can help kind of alleviate some fear, because it's like, oh, I know that someone's there behind me, and like people are also probably alerted, so like cough really loudly. Like there might be like a little like, oh my god, someone's here, but then it's like, I know that they're there. Like I can, like, that's just another thing that I've seen people suggest.
Because I'm only thinking of jokes now. Have a fake phone conversation and make it as dramatic as possible. Someone just called you to say your lizard escaped and is wanted for murder, and what are you gonna do?
Killed a man.
He escaped. He killed a man.
Maybe stress the fact that you're talking about a lizard, though.
No, yes, but it's gotta really be focused on the lizard.
Yeah.
Larry, your lizard, has just committed manslaughter, and what are you gonna do now?
Larry the lizard is at large.
Oh my god, if some guy did that, I would be like very comfortable. I wouldn't be afraid at all.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point of like, just try to appear non-threatening. Like if it's not cold, like don't have your hood up, like maybe be on your phone, though I don't know, especially at night, like keep an eye on what you're doing, but like if you're on your phone, like I feel like you're not as threatening.
Yeah, it's really just don't like I also like I've got stubby little legs, and that's not like a me specific thing. And I know that other women have like longer legs, but they're still short. Um, so it's like we don't take as far of strides as lots of guys do, and so it's very common occurrence where a guy will be like walking past us on the street, and I will have not even known that he was there. Because he was like pretty quiet up until the moment that he's like walking past me, and then I'm like, oh my god, like I'm like just sitting there like that. So really, absolutely anything you can do to be like, hey, I'm here, you know, is helpful.
I always like because like some of the sidewalks we have on campus are a little like very narrow, so I'll always just like even like walk off on the grass if I'm passing someone, like, or I'm like walking towards someone, just pass them.
Yeah. And that's sweet too, is the notion of just equally moving aside, because that's like a whole thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there was a whole surge of women who were like, we're not going to move out of the way. And as soon as they did that, so many men just ran into them because like the men expected the women to move to the side kind of thing.
That's one of my pet peeves, actually, because I'm usually the person that like moves in traffic, and I've thought many times of like, if I didn't move, these people are just gonna smack me, and like, why do I have to move for this?
Yeah.
And obviously, that's something a lot of people experience. Like, why are we giving these people like just, I don't know, just like right away? And
I think, it's absolutely just a thing where like everyone should kind of be courteous of everyone. Like it shouldn't be like falling on one group of people or another. Yeah. Also, side note, because you said traffic, and then I thought about cars. If you're a jerk in a big pickup truck, be nicer. Yeah, that's always also scary, because I've always had like cars low to the ground, and I feel like I'm always afraid of like making a guy in a truck mad, because like you see a bunch of stories of them like then tailing a woman and like killing her. That's a fear. So maybe just don't tailgate, which I feel like is not gender specific. Just don't tailgate. That's not a women fear.
That's general.
Yeah.
Side note. Well, there was this time I was going somewhere, and this big, massive pickup truck was right behind me, and it was on my tail the entire time. So I just slowed. This was in the middle of the day, but I like slowed down, probably 5 miles under the speed limit. I was like, "You're being annoying, so hit me. I dare you."
So there was this one time there's this like massive pickup truck behind me, and it was in the middle of the day, but he had his brights on, and I was like, there's literally no need, right?
I've had that like late at night. Like I had a pickup like on the highway. Some of the highways in Illinois are more like country roads, like they're still paved and everything, but they're like one lane and
dark.
Yeah, and really dark. And I had once where a pickup truck was on my tail and then flashed his brights to like make me move over so he could pass me.
That's like, horrific.
It could have crashed because it's it's shining right in your face through the.
You can't see when that happens.
Yeah,
you can barely see in front of you when they do that. Like that's like such a big thing for me. As a side note, is just like, my God, chill out. Like I'm such an anxious driver. I hate driving already, and so when someone does something like that, my knuckles are white. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. But yeah.
Although it is better to now, like when that happens and then they pass you and they're like, okay, now they're nowhere near me because they're gonna speed off and I won't see them again.
Yeah, they're going like 1 billion miles per hour. You're not gonna see them for years. But it's yeah, there was this one time though in the middle of the day that he was doing this, and like it was a 2-lane highway, and I could not get over to the other lane because like I was also trying to pass like 3 people who were going like 20 miles below the speed limit, because that's just a thing that happens in Pennsylvania. And so I was like trying to get around them, and he's like on like the bumper of my car, and I'm like, dude, you can visibly see like I'm probably going 5 miles per hour above the speed limit, which is about as much as I'll go because I'm afraid of speeding. And so, like, I was like, honey, like, no need. You can obviously see that I'm kind of in a pickle here. And like by the time, so like maybe like 2 minutes later that I was finally able to like get in front of another car safely, he like nailed on his horn as he was passing me and like flicked me off. And I was like,
Jeez.
I'm so sorry. Like, where do you have to be?
Yeah.
Anyway, be nicer drivers. Oh, okay. This is a big one. At parties for whenever those are a thing again. Make drinks in front of women, because that's like a fear, especially so like bigger house parties with like jungle juice type things,
Yeah.
or like like big like batch drinks basically. This is a thing that like at jujitsu parties, all the guys would like get all the jujitsu girls and be like, come with us in the kitchen, like we're making the drinks now. And like they'd have everyone watch so that like all the girls like knew we were safe, and it was like, ah yes, like I feel good about anything that anyone's ingesting. And so that's huge. Yeah, I know you guys aren't big partiers.
Yeah,
so there might not be a lot of
party
comments
in my life. I have nothing to add to this.
No, I understand that. But again, going back to my like being lazy thing and then just treating people normally, like in order to do something like that, that takes work. Like you got like I assume it's like pills or something.
Yeah, I don't
You gotta
know.
prepare for that. That's too much. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, don't drug people.
Yeah.
Drunk people.
That would be
Costs
the
money
the-
too.
That's true. It would be easier if people just didn't drug people, but a helpful thing for other men who are
Yeah.
not like other men.
Exactly. If you don't get the human being thing, just think like,
Right.
hey, it takes work and it's gonna cost money. So
Yeah.
If basic human decency is too much for you,
yeah.
then think of the financial cost.
Oh my god. Okay. Another one, and this is one that you guys are really good at, is listening without getting defensive. Yay. Which can be applied to like so many more things, right? But like just on this subject, if someone's like, hey, this is a thing that's happening that guys do that makes me uncomfortable, it's so much nicer when I have like friends like you guys who are like, yeah, that sucks, and not guys who are like, oh, okay, but like I would never, oh my god, could you imagine me doing that? Or like if he did do it, like this is probably his reasoning. And it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
overcorrecting.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
I was thinking you were gonna say people like justifying it. They're like, yeah, that's horrible. But you gotta think of like whatever. But I'm
Or
glad
like,
you did.
what
That's so much
aboutism
worse.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's
I'm glad
also
it's
a valid
just,
complaint.
like-
But
Like an over trying to show that they would never do it. But
yeah. And it's like there's a good bunch of like men in my life who I'm, you know, very trusting of, and who I like could never imagine possibly hurting anyone, right? But like if one of them starts to go off about how like, oh my god, yeah, could never be me, I'm so much better than other guys, I suddenly start like getting red flags in my head where I'm like,
It's like,
okay.
also like it shouldn't be a thing you have to question. Like I would just
Right.
assume like everyone's a good person.
Yeah, but
I'd
that's
like
the
to at
thing is
least.
it's yeah, and like I same, and so that's why if they're like trying to prove to me like through solely just words whenever I'm talking about someone unrelated, that they're a good person, I'm like, okay, are you?
yeah, I was like, it seems like a little bit of a red flag because they could just be lying. Like there's that whole thing of like, I don't want to get super political, but the whole thing of like guys on dating apps will put like not into politics or like moderate
Hate
or
it.
something because
Red flag.
they know if they put conservative that women won't match with them.
Yeah.
It seems like a very similar thing. Of like I know women won't like me if I show any true colors, so I have to like overcorrect to show that I'm not that way.
Yeah. I
Instead
do
of just
not
Not
yeah.
being mad. They just
Absolutely.
cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't swipe on anyone who's apolitical, because in our current world, if you're apolitical, you're just a sociopath. Like you're
Yeah.
like I don't particularly like
That whole,
Republicans,
like-
but I trust one more than an apolitical man.
That whole, like, well, both sides are pretty bad.
Right, like,
it's
get
like,
away.
are they?
No,
Both sides
they're
aren't
not.
great, but they're also radically different.
Yeah. And Jesus.
Yeah,
Obviously I'm not gonna swipe on a Republican man. And moderates are iffy. They need to have something else in their profile to show me that moderate just means that they don't understand what the word means.
But yeah, on a side note, guys, I'm not a murderer. Like, I don't even know any murderer friends. Like,
I would
and
never
if I
murder
did commit
someone.
murder, like no one would catch me.
You know? Whole, like, I definitely didn't kill Gerald on 38th and 9th Street at 1
At 3
p.m.
p.m.
It's like, yeah, it's one of
At
those
1
things.
p.m. on Tuesday, March 30th,
30.
1984.
I think it's just one of those things that you're denying something that you're not being accused of, which makes you seem a
this
little
is
guilty.
The whole Shakespeare thing of methinks the lady doth protest too much. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, this was one that actually came in from like 2 different people, which was listening to rants, but only giving advice if they ask. Which I feel like that's got to be more than just a woman thing. I know I personally absolutely appreciate that, but like I feel like that's got to also just be a person thing. Am I wrong? What's up?
So I'm thinking there's in Parks and Rec there's
Yeah.
a joke. It's very accurate that if in a relationship, if the girlfriend, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit sexist, but if the girlfriend is complaining about something, you're just like, that sucks, because they don't want it to be corrected. They just want to be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
So I is that what you're getting at, or is this more
I think that's kind of part of it. Like for me personally, if I'm ranting about something just to rant, then I'll just rant. But if I'm ranting about something trying to like find a solution, I'll go, I mean, what do you even do? What do I even do? And like I prompt the person or something like that. I don't think I say it so like, but maybe I do. I don't know. Like it's just one of those things. And like my mom and I have a thing about this too, because sometimes we don't get it for each other, where like if we're pissed about something, we'll then go like, do you want a rant or do you want like advice? And like we just blatantly ask each other like, hey, what do you want from this? And so like thoughts? I don't know.
I was just gonna say, I think it depends on the case, because like there's some situations where you rant and it's like I don't think there's any advice to give. Like I can rant about like one of my teachers giving this assignment that makes no sense, and like there's no advice to give there. And like honestly, like most people that rant, you just want to listen to them.
That's fair.
And I think there's probably also like maybe like a happy medium in between too, of like maybe there's something like, oh well, like maybe you could look at it this way, but don't like be like, oh, you must do it this way and this way and this way. So
yeah. And I do think that it's somewhat of a common occurrence that kind of goes along with like mansplaining kind of things, where like if you're like just ranting about something and someone's like, oh well, here's what you should do. Like I do have several like guy friends that that I'm not actually gonna go into, but just I had like a thing with a guy who was like coming on to me last week, right? And I talked about it with one of my friends, and I didn't even get the full story out. I said like maybe the first like maybe 2 sentences about what was going on, and he went, "This is suspicious, you should block him." And I was like, I haven't fully said what was going on and what my thoughts are on it yet. I've just stated like the beginning 2 facts of like the case. And it's like, it's not that it wasn't suspicious and that I shouldn't have blocked him. It was just that it came before like my thoughts were said, you know?
I think it's like, I think it also depends on what the kind of advice is. Because I think there's like some advice of like, oh, you know, like maybe you should like talk to this person, maybe talk it through. But also, like, I don't think your advice is like, oh, well, clearly it's like, do this and everything will be fine. Because that's never the situation. It's like Dr. Phil. You guys ever watch Dr. Phil?
I
Only
never
ever,
watched it.
yeah, never intentionally. It's always on at like car places though.
Yeah, like it's always like someone maybe with like a mental problem or something, or it's like something with like an underlying problem. And most times it's like, oh, well, it's like you're not working hard enough. You need a job and you need to work hard, and then all your situation will be fine. Then your depression will go away. And it's like, it's not. It's not how it
capitalist
works.
propaganda right there.
Yeah.
Not quite. Yeah, that's a big thing. I think it's also, this is just a side note about the particular advice of blocking a man. That's scary for women to do. Because, like, a lot of times we're taught, like, if you're rejecting a guy, do it so sweetly so that he won't kill you. Yeah.
I was going to say that earlier, that, like, the, like, differences between men getting broken up with and women getting or men breaking up and women breaking up is like, there's a very real possibility that you'll get murdered if you're a woman, which is just awful.
What a fun world.
There's that whole, not to constantly reference comedians.
You're fine. It'll brighten the episode
I'm wholly unoriginal and have but Don Glover has a bit about like crazy women stories. And he talked about, like, why are there no crazy men stories? And it's because the crazy men kill you. And that's why there's no stories.
I mean, yeah. I love Donald Glover, though. Weirdo, great bit. Like,
it's a really good bit.
Yeah. But yeah, so just I think listening to people and hearing where they're coming from with their perspectives is important. And I think that that's not just a women thing, but I do think that it happens a lot when like a woman is talking to a man.
Yeah. And I think there can also be like said something about the advice of like, don't try to like solve someone's problems if they're not asking for it, and also don't like just provide one solution.
Yeah. And I think that everyone's got to have been guilty of this at some point in their life. Like, I know I've been guilty where I've tried to like solve things where I think it's like an easy solution, but like everyone has like their own nuances of every situation in their own brain, so you have to like really understand what's going on before you can actually give anything helpful. But yeah, something I've started doing is I've started just telling people to like tell me pros and cons of things with like any problem that anyone's like comes to me with. I did that to you like last week.
It's like, wait, I just had that happen. Okay.
But I feel like it's a really good way to like help people without me putting my own thoughts into it.
No,
you know,
it absolutely was when you did it to me, because you were like, do pro and cons. And I was like, well, there aren't really cons, so I guess this I already have a decision, because there's only one con, and I really wrote it off. So.
Like spending money. You're always gonna have to spend money. So.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think that's what I've found personally works as like a good starting place in helping people, is just to be like, you tell me all of your thoughts, and then we'll see where we can go. Yeah. Alrighty. I'm glad that helped though. I don't often hear feedback about it.
Yeah, I know, it was good.
Yeah. All right. Everyone should make pro-con lists. Side note. Great tactic. Anyway, okay. This one I'm gonna lump two. Okay, simply educating yourself and utilizing your platform to educate others. Doing this will not only help the individual understand different ways they can be supportive, but also encourage those around them to do the same, as well as terminology is important. So like when you're talking about girls, it should be like girls and guys, not girls and men. Or when you're talking about like men, it should be women and men, not, you know.
That's something I think about all the time, of making sure that I'm using women when I'm also using men. And because it's like a society like ingrained of girls, and when it's not great. So that's like definitely something I'm really trying to focus on. And the never using like females, because that's just like inherently bad. And I wasn't really ever doing it before, but I saw something about it. I was like, oh, okay, absolutely axing that from
I don't think I've ever known someone to like legitimately use the phrase female, but I see it a lot online.
Yeah, I've seen it online, so I was like, just gonna make sure that never happens.
Yeah, that's just weird because you're never gonna be like males. Like that's never been
typical males.
Right. But like, yeah, so it's not that you can't use girls, it's just to not use it in tandem with men because then it's like derogatory. But if you're saying like guys and girls or like girls and guys, like that's you know, or boys and girls, you know.
It's like the equality thing of
exactly.
Like don't treat men super grown up if you're not going to treat women the same way.
Exactly. And then along with that, this was just an interesting thing is using terms for what's happening. So like a lot of this is called like violence against women, right? Which takes away any aggressor. It just makes this as like this bad thing that's happening towards women, and not like these men who are killing women. Like it takes any actor out of the situation and just places a victim, which kind of skews the argument towards a lot of people being like, what should women do to protect themselves, and not, hey, men should not kill them. Like, yeah.
I think those are all good points. Especially with like terminology, I'm probably really bad at that. I don't speak good. I'm from a very rural area and like very much insensitive people. And so like that's always been something I've always struggled with, and I've always like tried to be educated, like going back to the first comment. Like, cause yeah, I feel like I'm always learning something. Like, I don't think I've ever used like female in a sentence, but like I didn't even think about that. Like I never really used males, so like
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that that's huge too, is you're never gonna like pop out the womb perfect. You know, like no matter the subject or like the social norm or anything, you're gonna have to educate yourself.
Yeah.
And it's never gonna end because you're never gonna be perfect. Like that's just how the world works. So I think that so long as people are always working on educating themselves.
Yeah, and it's important to focus on that aspect of like learning and growing and getting better instead of just, oh, they did the bad thing, gone, canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're all human and people make mistakes, so.
Yeah, and there's like levels, obviously.
Like,
yes. Right. I know you feel that way. I just wanted to stress it.
No, yes, absolutely. There's some people like, oh, this person is pretty awful, and get rid of them. I completely drawing, but it made me remind me of something I was thinking of earlier for terminology that I've seen it a lot. Where this happened in particular with the Brett Kavanaugh nomination, which was not a long time ago, but calling something sexual assault when it's just rape, like using like nicer words to dress up something awful. It's like it's rape, and call them a rapist. It's like don't default to these like nicer terms.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. There's also like calling like someone like the jackass, I don't know his name, but the guy who killed a bunch of people last week, people called him like an attacker, and it's like that's not wrong, but he's also a straight up murderer. Like
but he's having a really bad day.
Such a tough day.
That made me mad. I was like, holy cow.
Although there was a funny Onion, or I hope it was an Onion article. It was like it was like, police understand what it's like to have a bad day and killing people.
Yeah, I saw that.
God, but yeah, and so I think a great point is to not downplay what's actually happening. Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is a really good one. Hearing them out and believing them, but also being honest, even if it might hurt them at the time. Do you guys have thoughts? You don't need to start with my
thoughts. Go for it.
Okay. I love this one. Just because it's like, obviously it kind of goes along with the like listening to someone thing, but I think that this probably ventures more into like both rape and sexual assault in general, of like making sure that you believe someone with what's going on, and like listening to what's going on, but then also like I think the being honest part is a lot of women don't necessarily know what happened to them. It's been an unfortunate occurrence in my life where I've had, I'd say probably 80% of women that I know come to me with something that happened to them that they felt iffy about. And I was like, that's like sexual assault, or like that you were raped. And like, you can't, you know, you gotta be very gentle when you're talking about it with them.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where because of the way society like talks about sexual assault, it can be very difficult to understand entirely what happened to you and entirely like how you should react, because there's no way that you should react, you know, like it's a very personal experience and everybody is going to treat it as such. And so I think that it's one of those things where it's like you have to be honest with them that if something like bad happened, you have to say, hey, this was a bad thing. And you just have to kind of hope that they understand that, but you can't like tell them how to understand it. And it's just, yeah, I think that's my thing.
Definitely. I think I agree. Like, I think listening's a big, I was like a little bit confused what you meant by like being honest with them, but I think I understand now. Like, I think listening is a very big thing because of like if someone's coming to you, they trust you, like don't try to like make light of the situation.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
that's just not the thing. It's like that's their time. You should hear them out. If they ask for advice again, like give them advice, be honest with them, and I guess also trying to be there for them too, make them feel comfortable. Don't be like, oh, you've been hurt, like I need to fix you, but like help them out in any way they can. So
yeah, I think also just like you can't, you know, tell them what to do. And like obviously we all want to be like, lock up the rapists because we should lock up rapists because they're terrible people. But you can't tell a person how to like deal with their own trauma and deal with their own pain and everything like that. And so I think that that's an important thing, is that they have to be the one to decide it, because I think the worst possible thing that you could do is like this person lost some of their autonomy and then take away more of it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think really just being there for the person too.
Yeah, just listening. That's the key.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a sad one. I'm gonna try to get a little bit of a happier one. Don't try to talk to them randomly.
Wait, what does that mean?
I think this is like, that was the only thing the person said, so I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding what you meant, but the way that I took it was like, if you're like on the bus, don't like talk to a strange woman that you don't know. You know?
I guess that's fair. You know, I'm a very like introverted, antisocial person from time to time. Like, I was in Starbucks the other day and this random man came up and started talking to me, and I was like, okay, this is weird.
Guess we're doing this.
And it's like, I didn't enjoy that. And I think that just goes for everyone, honestly, in some ways of like, you know, if you're in a public place, don't just talk to someone. You know, I think it depends on the situation.
Of course.
If you're like holding the door for someone and they're carrying a lot, be like, oh man, heavy load there, eh? Something, you know.
That's just turned Canadian. Oh my god. But yeah, I think that that's a good point. Is like, obviously there's situations in which it's appropriate to say something and probably inappropriate to not say something. So you should probably like acknowledge them, but like don't like come up to a random woman who's like waiting for her drink in the Starbucks line and be like, anyway, tell me about your life. Or like,
I think there's levels, because like I know this is a very American thing, but to just kind of talk to people, like that happens and you make casual conversation, but you gotta like, I think the key is check the vibe of like, hey, this person might not want to talk to you. And you don't like keep going if they're giving like non-committal responses or something. But I don't know. Some people are friendly. You gotta like be perceptive, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it might be accepted and it might not be.
Exactly. I also think it depends on like what you say. Like, don't try to start a conversation with someone at a coffee shop. They're like trying to be in and out. If like
Right.
coffee's taking a while and you're like, hey, this coffee's taken, coffee machine's taking its time today, that's
Sure.
fine.
Right. But don't like go like, you look really nice in that skirt. I don't know.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
Yeah, bad start.
Yeah.
Bad start. I think you had like a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah. That's a little more nuanced, but another one I got that I think is not nuanced is don't touch them randomly. If you don't know them, don't touch them.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, they defined in this that like a common occurrence was when like a man was walking past a woman like in a crowded area, that they'll like kind of like touch their lower back to be like, oh, going behind you, which has happened to me several times. Like that's absolutely a thing, and it's creepy every time. I will say, a tasteful lower back touch from a guy that I am like flirting with while like we're hanging out together, fine. Random stranger, not okay.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think again, it's like anyone doesn't like just to be touched randomly. Like I've had the exact same thing. Like random people touch me. Like I did a musical and I did a show, and people would come up and like get pictures, and I was like, oh man, you're very friendly. Like I think that's another thing too. Actually, I'll let you go first because I was going to segue into something different. But
I was just gonna piggyback off of what you said about like I don't think anyone would enjoy it. I think that's kind of maybe a good mental test, is like, would I do this to my bro? Would I like put my hand on his lower back to move past him? No? Mm-hmm. Okay, I won't do it to a woman. Yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, maybe you can like accidentally like touch someone in a crowd and just be like, oh, sorry. Happens from time to time. But I was gonna say with pictures, I think pictures is interesting because that's often a very like sometimes physical situation. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like I always think it just depends like who I'm getting a picture with. If it's like someone I don't know very well, I just feel weird that like they have like their arm around me. I don't know.
I think if it's someone you don't know, this isn't applicable for me because of me being short, but they could put their arm around my shoulders and I'd feel fine. Mm-hmm. Don't go lower for someone you don't know. Yeah. And so if someone put their like arm around my shoulders, I'd probably just be like, hey. Like I wouldn't put my arm around their like waist then kind of thing. Yeah. Like I think just keep it like a very like non, like I don't know, not sexual, but like just non like weird place.
Exactly. Yeah. That was very much a big thing with like getting pictures with people. So I was like, this is interesting.
That's fair. What were you gonna say, Adam?
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's gone.
But like even going back, I think it's just like a personal space thing too, which is a great thing about COVID, because like people are like respecting people's personal space even more. So
yeah, that's a nice thing.
And I also think like there are some people that are just more touchy than other people. Not that this is an excuse at all, but like you might have some friends that like, I don't know, just very touchy, which is fine. But also it's like you have some friends that aren't as much, and just understanding that barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something that like, I mean, so like I'm, from the South, and so they're a very like handsy bunch. And so I think that it's it's just like putting your like hand on someone's arm if you're like laughing with them, or like, it's like very much stuff like that. And going into the North where that was definitely not a cultural thing, I think that was a shift that like I had to learn. And now it's one of those things where you just kind of vibe check. You're just like, yeah, I think that this is someone who like I can do this with, and this is someone I can't do this with. And that's how you go. Yeah. I also just don't do it with strangers. I feel like that's like a thing that you only reserve for friends.
Yes. I was going to like maybe a touchy person. I think with friends is usually okay, but like Just don't do that with strangers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't do
You
it
have
with
no idea who
strangers.
that person
I'd
is. Don't
check
do
for
that at all.
friends. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Don't treat women like their only purpose is children.
Like what?
Another pretty straightforward one.
Just yeah. So women have more purposes than childbirth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It like cut out, or maybe I just misheard it. I just heard like women and children.
Yeah. I think that that's a really huge thing. I personally don't want kids of my own. I want to adopt 10-year-olds. However, when I say that, people assume I hate kids, which isn't the case. I'm pretty okay with children. They're they're fine. I just don't like physically think I could have my own. I have a bunch of other reasons for thinking I don't want to have my own, especially career wise. And then I also am someone who like doesn't think that like blood is the defining factor of family. Um, and so I, again though, like I also shouldn't have to sit and like justify it, which I do instinctually, and like I have to, I think sometimes do it to myself, to just be like, no, like you have reasons for not wanting kids, like, and they're like a thing, and so
it's
yeah,
not
I
for
think
everyone.
that it's not,
I
and
think
like it's also, yeah,
just it's so weird to me that we that society is like have to have kids when shouldn't you want people who don't want to have kids have to not have them? Like, what, is it not better society to be like, hey, this person doesn't want to have kids, we're not going to force them on them
Hmm.
because that's just going to be bad. Like,
that's how you get bad
that
parents.
seems like pretty basic. Yeah, that's how you get bad parents, and that's why there's a really huge foster system and
Yeah.
like just if people don't want to have kids, don't make them have kids.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, sort of of what you guys are talking. I was reading a bit about like I think it's called antinatalism, which is like this idea of like just not having kids, and like there's a lot of like interesting theory behind it of like if you bring a kid into the world and you know it's going to cause that kid pain to live, like would you still bring that kid into the world? And like all sorts of like other like ethical things of like should you have a kid if there's like 100 kids out there that you could adopt? um, there's a lot of like interesting questions now. Like also there's a bad side to it. Like there's a ton of people, I think there's like a Reddit subreddit which is all just about hating people that have children. It's very strange and don't do that. But like
Right.
there's a lot of interesting thoughts of like what if like people just didn't have kids?
Yeah. And I think that it's, you know, I have a lot of people who are close to me and who I consider very, very good friends who like also just don't understand, um, when I talk about not wanting kids, when like obviously it's not a complicated concept, but I think that it's just that it's like a very ingrained thing in how like they were raised, where it's like they were raised thinking like we're gonna get married young, we're gonna have kids kind of thing, you know. And I think that that's like, um, just a difference in perhaps how we were raised. But I think that it's something that you should never tell anyone, man or woman, but like obviously especially woman because she's the one doing it,
Yeah.
like how women should like deal with kids. And like that goes into the whole pro-choice thing. Like obviously like I'm pro-choice, I don't think that's a question. But I think that it's just in the fact of like if a woman is trying to have a child and is like wanting and willing to bring a child into the world, don't tell her how to do it. um like I'm not enough of a hippie to think that like, um what is it, like birth in the bath is a good idea or whatever that is.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were gonna like physically give birth, I would want the epidural.
Yeah.
But like if some girl doesn't, she doesn't have to. Like that's her call. That's her life. But I, you know, I think that it's just like don't question it, like because frankly like for me in my future the only people that it'll affect are myself, my partner, and my child, you know.
Yeah.
And so when someone's not one of those, it shouldn't really matter as much. I don't know. That's the thing. But that's also another thing too, is like when you are with someone, right? Like, I do feel like a male partner to a woman who is like giving birth or wanting children in any way obviously should have like some say. I know that there's just a lot of women who are like, oh, it doesn't matter, like I'm gonna keep having babies even if he doesn't want them, and it's like, well, no, like let's
okay. It's a two-person job.
It's a joint effort. Yeah. So there's nuances to all of it.
Yeah, and going back to like the post, I think it's interesting too of like even just how we view women. Like, don't view women as sex objects. That's not great. Women are people. Everyone's
believe
a people.
it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the episode title, is Women Are People Too. I'm not going to name it that, but we're going to pretend I will. But yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I know that it's not all fun conversations, but it's been a really tough month, seeing a lot of bad things. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's do something fun for the
Yeah. I was just gonna say, to summarize, this is not a one-size-fits-all thing, but like if you don't get the human decency part, just like it takes time and effort and thought to be a bad person, and you could just ignore people and you'd be fine. So do
also that. As a side note, strike a balance in educating yourself.
Yes.
Guys like you can educate other guys, and it's exciting that you can do that, and you can be like, hey, don't rape a woman. I don't know. But like,
don't do that.
Hot take. But you like, that's the thing. Also, women in your lives can like help and are probably more than willing to answer questions, but also we're not Google. That's the thing. The past week I've been talking about with a few different women of just, there's some guys who just fundamentally don't understand things, and they're just like continuously asking, and it's I want, like, we do have a predominantly female audience, so if you're a woman out there, don't feel completely like obligated to educate men, because that's fundamentally not your responsibility in the world. Like, it's obviously helpful and it's never a harmful thing to do, but if it's taking a toll on your mental health, take a step back and take care of yourself.
I was gonna say two things off of that, because this was a big thing like over the summer. I mean, it still continues to be a big thing, but like with Black Lives Matter, people asking black people like, well, what do you think about it? And it's like, one person is not the spokesperson for an entire race.
No.
Or just gender, creed, whatever. Like,
absolutely,
you do have to do a bit of research, but also I think it's okay to ask questions and understand that you don't know everything. Absolutely. Don't use that you don't know everything as an excuse, but it's okay to admit that and be like, well, I have some things to learn, and like I should do some research on that.
Everyone can learn more. And don't stop trying to, because then you're probably going to not be great. Hot take. Ignorant people aren't my favorite type. Anyway, or I guess willingly ignorant people aren't my favorite type. We'll make that distinction. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's do funny, silly, haha, rainstorms.
I have two funny ones to start us off.
Let's hear them.
One is a pet peeve, bringing it back to the early days of the episode.
Pet peeve?
Acting like it was ever a segment, but...
It was for one episode.
Well, okay, so my pet peeve is people who back into car spaces, like parking spaces.
Okay.
It's just so excessive, and I can't stand it.
Mhm.
Because, like, particularly, went to the grocery store yesterday. There was this massive pickup truck who took the lengthy effort of backing into a parking space. It's like, why are you doing this? It's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
You're saving yourself negligible amounts of time and devoting so much effort to giving yourself it.
And grocery store parking lots are big. Just find a spot where you can pull through.
Yeah, there's that
Pull
too. Of
throughs.
like, just pull through. Like he could have gone like 2 extra feet, and there would have been a spot to pull through. But he's like,
Pull
no, I
throughs
gotta
are
go
great.
through all this effort to back all the way in. It was rough. And then, oh, unless you have something to add.
Oh, just a side note. I feel like you're just showing off. I feel like it's not needed when you're
Yeah,
backing into a space. Yeah, like you're
yes,
just trying to
absolutely.
be like, look at how much better I am, and you're not. Anyway, go on.
I can barely park pulling in.
No, yeah, it's definitely like kind of pretentious, I feel like. Too. Not a fan. Not a fan. Don't do it. But and then something bad happened to me, but it's in a funny way. So
Okay.
making a dish, doing some cooking, got a can. Open up the can. My can opener is not the
Dull.
best at times. I don't know if it's dull, but sometimes it'll work like mostly, and then it won't catch like the final bits.
Oh.
A side note about that, I don't think I've ever seen a good can opener. Like every can opener acts like it's been in your drawer for 20 years.
It
Like
really does. This is a brand new can opener. I've used it
Oh.
maybe 6 or 7 times, and it just doesn't function the entire way. And I don't know how that happens because it's barely been used. But so as I'm doing this, I am struggling. There's like 2 threads that it's hanging on, and I can't get the cap off. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll get a fork out. I'm gonna try to like pry it, doing these things, and then I'm like, okay, I can pull it out now because it's like literally a hair of
Right.
metal, and that's good. I'm yanking, I'm pulling, and then I pull my hand away. I've sliced it up in like 4 different places.
Oh
And
no!
nothing bad. They've all
Okay.
healed, or mostly healed now. But it was definitely like, oh, I completely forgot this is a sharp object, and I've just slashed myself.
Oh, sweet.
So some blood had probably gotten my food, but
It's
you know
just
what?
a
That's
little
fine.
extra iron.
A little extra iron.
Be a vampire.
Yeah. Oh my god. Alrighty. How about you, Ryan?
Oh man, I had the biggest rain on Friday because oh wait no, this was Thursday. Holy cow, this week's blending together. I had to go to a doctor's appointment for my new job. I had to get like a physical, and everything about it was strange. Like I had to get up at 9, which is fine, but like normally like I get up at like noon, so very early.
Bad start.
Yeah, and so I get there, I pull up, and I couldn't
He
find
backs
the
into
building.
the parking spot.
I backed into the parking spot. Like I had to go through the building through the back. Once I got in there, I had to go like down a hallway, turn left down another hallway, and then there was a stairwell. I go up the stairwell, and there's a guy who's like, "Hey, are you here for an appointment?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, you need to check in," and he was just like sitting on a box at the top of the stairs, and I was like, "Okay." And then it was like, "Go through there," and then there was a clinic, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is like hidden." And so before that, I had to bring like a 15-page paper of like all my medical history, filled it out, boom, turned it in. They're like, okay, we just have a few more things for you to sign. They hand me a clipboard with 25 pages of stuff. And it's like, it's all the same stuff. It's like social security, name, medical history. Fill it out. Literally takes me 30 minutes. Turn it in, and then I sit there for another 30 minutes. 10 o'clock comes by, and they're like, all right, we're ready to take you back. And they put me in a patient room. And there I waited for like 3 hours because they kept coming in being like, hey, we're almost ready. Hey, 5 more minutes. Hey, we're filling out some paperwork. We're almost ready for this test. And it was like the worst. It was like that Community episode. I sent Margot the clip of where like Annie's doing the experiment and Troy and Abed. And they're saying like how long people can wait for. that's what it felt like. And like there was a fan in the room, and it was just really cold, like just slightly cold enough to be annoying. I was like, this is the absolute worst.
He texted me, and then like 3 hours later, he texted me he left. I was like, oh my god.
I was like, I need lunch.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I expect it to be like an hour. I didn't expect to miss my class for the day. But that's
honestly,
okay.
I've like never had any type of appointment that would last that long. Like I've had long ones. I've been like admitted to the hospital, but that's not really an appointment. But like I've never ever like just sat waiting for someone for like half a day.
Yeah.
I know I really didn't have to do that much. It was like blood pressure, normal like face stuff, and then I had to do like some exercises like lunges and picking up 25 pounds just to make sure I'm like can do stuff.
I've never had.
Did this really take 3 hours to set up? I don't know. It was a very sketchy clinic too. Like
yeah, it really seems like
Yeah.
this was a scam.
Yeah.
So Ryan got scammed.
Well, I was just gonna add real fast. The only time I've ever had a super long wait time was for my MRI, and that's exclusively because MRIs take forever to do.
They're a good bit, yeah.
And you already wait like an hour before you can get in, and then it's like an hour laying on this machine. It's the worst.
They suck. Do you think I should call this episode "Ryan Got Scammed" and have no relation to the movie?
Ryan got scammed, not clickbait. I do have a form I got.
Not clickbait.
Not
Gone
clickbait.
bad.
Yeah.
Gone sexual.
I have my drug screen.
Oh. But anyway, yeah. So I'm trying to think of happy things. Justice League.
Yes.
Ryan and I watched it Thursday night until 5 a.m. my time, and oh boy, it was good.
It was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, a lot of it could have not been in the movie, and it would have been better. But that wasn't what we got.
Yeah.
I told Adam last
Every
night.
scene is integral to Zack Snyder's
Of
creative
course.
vision.
You're right. I'm wrong. I'll shut up. But I told Adam last night, I was like, it's kind of a bummer because we got this like short little like shitty version like years ago, and then now we got this really long version that a lot of it was good, but and then a lot of it was unnecessary. And it's like if you could have like got the time of the first one, and like the amount of establishing shots and slow-mo used in the first one, but like the plot and character development of this last one would have been the perfect movie.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah. That's all.
But I enjoyed it. If you have 4 hours, go ahead and watch it.
You have 4 hours. I
Watch
probably
it
will never
chapter
see
by
it
chapter.
because
Yeah.
of that. Because 4 hours.
You gotta watch it. It's worth it, I promise. Doesn't that seem trustworthy? Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Well, respect women. Don't get
Yeah.
scammed. Don't back into parking spots. And have a sunny Wednesday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.